This
I'm also recording
conference
that
will now be
so
recorded.
that I can upload it later in our IN. Are there any freshers who never faced an interview?
Um, Myself, I'm not a fresher, but I haven't faced any interviews in the last 2.5 years.
Okay.
But I will be going to. I mean, yeah, I'm planning to do in a year. But
Yeah.
it's good to get to know the
Okay.
ideas and prepare, even
Yeah,
though
it's
it's a year after a year. But yeah, so
I mean, this thing is like I won't teach anything new, and I'll just share my experiences and how I think that one can answer when somebody asks, "Tell me about yourself." And
mm-hmm.
there are many ways. I mean, there's not a single way. It's all about winning the people. So I'll just share
Yeah,
what I think are
it's
important.
it's interesting to know as well how everyone express for the
Yeah,
same question. So that's how I joined the session today then.
super. Let's jump into it. And as always, I would like to introduce myself. So that for the new people, for the old people, you might be bored already about me, but for the new people, myself, Jagadeesh. Uh, I'm uh, I'm a biotechnologist. I studied biotechnology and did PhD on cancer pain. Right now, work at the European Union, a company called EIT Health. I help startups. So I help startups reaching their milestones by identifying any step. It could be just identifying a person who can help them, or identifying a hospital to make them validation to validate their product. So it's all over the Europe. I helped until now. I helped around 200 to 300 startups. So it's a gigantic organization that I work, and and I also like to help students. That's what I'm doing here. Not you're all not students, but it's my passion that I like to help people. And one more slide about Indian Empowerment Network for the new people. Yesterday Mohit and me, we had a call. We were kind of a bit worried that people who are joining Indian Empowerment Network, they do not know the values of the group and what is this group about. So that's why whenever I give a talk, I would like to emphasize that I provide the values, the framework, what this group is built, and how it has to go. So here are some fundamentals. So fundamentals are basically the beliefs. The beliefs are that every person is unique. So everyone has unique talents, and in the group, they can express that. So we don't want to judge anyone. It's really a platform where you can express. Normally in our societies, we always judge people based on something, but at least in this group, we try not. We try to avoid that. We try to avoid negativity, and we try to be really as much as humans we are. And the main thing which stands apart from any other groups is it's a peer-to-peer mentoring group. What does that mean is that every person who has a little bit of talent on any domain, they can be a mentor to the person who doesn't have knowledge in that domain. So irrespective of the age, irrespective of the gender, irrespective of ethnicities, you all could be mentored in something, or it could be mentee in something. So just feel free to become mentors, or feel free to become mentees, and you can explore your individual talents. And this is a group about personal as well as professional growth. It's really an empowerment group, and you can, whatever the talents you have, you can share, you can implement here. And the main belief what I have, or what we have, is always collaborate, because in the collaboration mode, you can really meet a lot of people, and you can get a lot of things done rather than compete. Because in compete, you are always worried that somebody will steal your idea, or somebody will steal your knowledge. But the thing is, you will be missing out a lot when you don't collaborate. And yeah, that's a bit about IEN. So let's. I have divided the today's session into basically three segments. One is before the interview, one is in the interview, and then the third one is practicing, basically. So I would like to everybody, after I finish the talk, you all can open the microphones one by one, and then I will ask you a question. Tell me about yourself. Then just tell it to me. I'm gonna just sit back, and everybody just listen to that and see how they feel. Okay, I don't force anybody. So whoever are interested, they can practice it today, because the lecture is going to be very short, maybe 20-25 minutes, and afterwards it's all about practice. Okay, cool. So before the interview, I would like, normally if I have an interview, what I do is that first I want to boost up my confidence, and I want to sorry, I want to pump up my confidence. So what I do is that I like to basically sit and analyze what are my strengths, and I go in a bit deeper what are my experiences, what exactly is my character, what is my behavior, what are my values, what are my core beliefs, my feelings, my thoughts. I do some kind of self introspection. So oh, sorry. I'm really sorry. Yeah. So self introspection. Yesterday, for the people whoever have attended the first IEN talk, we had a very good introduction about self introspection. What is self introspection, and how one has to do, especially to understand who we are. And Anant was telling that we don't need to do SWOT analysis, but when we do self introspection, we kind of analyze what exactly we are. So before the interview, always first understand who you are, what your experiences are, and also it's better you frame them in terms of stories in your brain. So you kind of connect them, like dig deeper in yourself with your own experiences, with your own character and all the things. Okay. And so, for example, if you are selected for an interview, what you need to do is that you need to understand who the interviewer is. So here I could actually give an example. In 2018, I think 2018 January, for Sankranti, I was in India and I had a job interview with Novartis. And Novartis, I actually got an email 2 days before the interview that they would like to interview me. And I was actually fully busy in India. It was a festive mood. We had Sankranti. I was busy with several things. And for me, I thought like, oh, these interviews are a piece of cake for me. I don't care. So I was fully confident. And the interviewer and I suddenly, I didn't know, somewhere all my relatives came to my home because it was festival, and I actually didn't have place to go and do interview, but somehow I found a room and I locked myself in the room and then started the interview. Suddenly my niece came and started banging the door, like, Mamaya, Mamaya, uncle, uncle, open the door, uncle, open the door. I mean, I can't say that I'm in interview because she's a little girl of 3 years old, and I couldn't even ask anybody to take her because I'm in the middle of interview. And suddenly a neighbor died. A neighbor died, and the whole village started crying. So it was like horrible noise. I had no idea what's happening, and the worst is that the interviewer's accent is Irish. He had very strong Irish accent. I couldn't understand all these disturbances. So interview was supposed to be 45 minutes. It got over in 15 minutes. So I did not understand what he was telling, and he could not understand because of my noise. So there are multiple things that I learned. So you should prepare a couple of things before itself, if it is a telephone interview or it's a face-to-face interview. So we'll talk about all these things. But the mistake what I did was I didn't take interview seriously. I could have prepared who is the person who is interviewing me, what is his kind of nationality, what kind of English he speaks, what is his background, and what is his position. So I have listed a couple of things here. So who is the interviewer? Understand who is the interviewer. It means basically their position. Is it a HR who is interviewing, or is the CEO of the company who is interviewing, or it's just somebody in the team who is interviewing? It's really important because they all have different skill sets. They all have different backgrounds. So based on that, you could also frame your kind of answers. So always put yourself in their shoes. So what I mean is that, like, what you do if you put in. So always identify what will you do if you are in that place. So you put yourself as an interviewer and then see, because if there is one job advertised and they need to pick one person out of 300 people. So how would you frame, how would you really stand out from all these people? So really go into their shoes and think like, okay, so now I need to select one person from 300 people. What should I look in a person? So this is very important. Otherwise you'll be always full of yourself, full of your strengths or phobias and everything. But the first thing is always put yourself in the shoes of interviewer, and then you will kind of understand how to look things in a proper way. Also understand their gender. So it's a different ways when you talk to a woman or when you talk to a man. So for example, I mean, if it's a man, there are a couple of things that you can talk about football based on the nationality, but it has its own pros and cons. But it's better to understand what is a gender, and are there any common friends. So if you go to LinkedIn, you will see if there are any first order, second order connections. Based on that, you could also reach out to them before itself, and you could already start like a little email thread or message thread where you can already make them friends. Okay. So, and the last one is that get all the information about the interviewer, what all you can get. It could be through your friends, it could be the people who are working in the company, or it could be just writing to them. So always before the interview, the preparation already has to start. The preparation could be reaching out to them, really identifying a lot of stuff from about the interviewer, because it makes life so easy. Okay, so I'm sharing only my views. It could be many other ways. So feel free to object, or feel free to adapt, however you see. Okay, that is about before the interview. Now let's see in the interview. So this interview could be telephone or a personal interview. Let's see how we could really win the interview. Okay, so it's the structure. I mean, when the person asks, tell me about yourself. So what kind of structure you need to use? So these are the questions normally people ask. Where do you begin? And what details you should mention? How much information should you give? How long should you talk? And what makes sense and what doesn't make sense? What falls really under this category of tell me about yourself? So there is no concrete structure, there's no proper way, but there is no one way, there's multiple ways. So I will just tell you a couple of things. But before we jump into the answer, let's look into what are don'ts, like what we are not supposed to tell there. So don't always start with the name, because your name is already in the CV and cover letter. So they know your full name, and don't tell your address, where do you stay, or all things, because these are all irrelevant. And it doesn't really make sense that you repeat what it is there in the CV. So you need to tell something that is not there on your CVs. So it's not necessary that you tell these things. I mean, it's not a sin or something telling these things, but it's okay not to tell because they know your name. And never ever share family and personal stories when you start telling about yourself. That shows that you are not professional, and also not necessary. It doesn't help you anything at all. And also don't talk much about irrelevance to the company or job. For example, if you're going for a social media company, um, you don't need to tell about manufacturing business or something. I mean, whatever, if it is relevant, you tell that, but if it is not relevant, it doesn't make sense. If they dig deep in your CV, you can explain that. But when somebody asks you, tell me about yourself, it's all about first 3 to 5 minutes. And always keep it focused. So don't jump from one to one another, because if you don't practice, this is what happens. Really, you'll miss focus because you don't really understand what you're talking. It has to be structured in a way that it's like a smooth flow. So they understand that, okay, this guy or this girl is so competent. And also don't tell things that you are not comfortable with. What I mean that is that I actually have a couple of examples in academia. So people, when they talk about mass spectrometry or some kind of bigger techniques, but they are not really experts in those. They might have just seen that somebody is using it, but if you already tell them or put them in CV, it's actually you are digging your own grave, because when they ask questions in this thing, you can't really answer. And also, like, don't give too many hints what to be asked next. So what I learned about in interviews is it's all about what kind of answers you give, what kind of things you tell. Based on that, interviewer can pick it up. So they really can nail it down there and ask a couple of questions, and then in the end, it's like you yourself have given all the hints. Okay. And the format. So the format has to be, I mean, the time could be like a couple of minutes, it could be 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, it's all up to you. It has to be good professional stories. So it's all about stories. It could be facts, but in the end, how you make a story out of it. So it's a professional story. Remember that it's not a personal story, it's a professional story. So what you achieved with your experience, what you had, or some kind of courses you took, what kind of achievements you made, how much you made things happen in your company or in your job. So all these things, it has to be engaging when you tell a story. It has to be clear, it has to be complete, compelling, and original. So focus on all these 5 aspects. It has to be really engaging. Don't tell dumb stories. Like I mean, I can't quote examples, but there are few people when I interviewed, there were really dumb stories. Like you don't really get interest to talk to them. And it has to be clear. So make sure that you are not in hurry. that you need to somehow dump things on another person. No, it has to be really, you're talking human, keep it human, and it has to be complete. So when you start something, end it with the results section, that what you achieved. It has to be compelling. So the story has to make sense. Otherwise, just telling some nonsense story doesn't make sense. And it has to be original. So don't copy stories from others. You all have a lot of stories in your life. So just keep your original stories and make it a proper story. Okay, so it's as I said, it's first couple of minutes. It could be first 2 to 3 minutes, or sometimes it's 5 minutes, or sometimes it's just 30 seconds or 1 minute. Normally people will give time when they ask, tell me about yourself. It's like the first sentence they ask, and in that time they would like to wait for some time, because that's where you give all the hints. You tell them who you are, what you want, and what you can bring to the company. So it's don't be in a hurry for this thing. Take some time. So it could be 2 minutes, 3 minutes, no problem at all. People like to really hear, because that's really the first contact that they speak to you. And so make it a concrete story, and always focus on what value could you bring, what can you achieve. Okay, in this story you always need to tell, like, based on your experiences, what can you achieve. For example, you are oh my god, my brain is not working, I'm not getting any examples. You are, for example, a social media marketer. You can there are I know a story, one of my friend did that, very bad story actually. So she moved into I think Berlin or somewhere. She went to the interview, and the interviewer asked, why do you want this job? She said, like, yeah, I got married to this guy, my husband, and my husband moved to Germany, and I moved because of him. And he asked me to get a job, and that's why I'm looking for a job, and this company looks like a very secure company, and I really love this job, and I can stay there. So this is like the first sentence that she opened, and immediately she will be rejected immediately, because the employers doesn't want somebody who comes there because they need security or something. The employers need somebody who could bring value to their company, and what results they could achieve. So how she might have told is that I'm like, I haven't experienced this and so this many years, and I did this project, and these are the things that I achieved, and I believe that I can do same things here in this company, because I see a lot of value in this company. So the same person, just different frame. And be yourself and show the best version of you. So remember this one, the best version of you. It's all about telling a lot of content about yourself. I mean, for example, in a year you do like you get results only in 1 month, and remaining all 11 months you did not get any results. But you need to focus on this level in this 1 month. So when was the best? When did you achieve these things? So you need to highlight this 1 month. So it's really showing the best version, not don't show the other side of you. It's all about selling yourself there. So it's always look for what's in it, whatever you say. So whatever you talk, every word, make sure that what is in it. It's like, is it bringing value, or is it just giving too many hints of yourself and what questions to be asked by the interviewer? And always, like, don't brag yourself so much, like, I achieved this, I am so and so, I'm so powerful, I'm a people person, I'm a team worker, and I'm a result oriented person. Yeah, too much me. No, it's like, you try to brag yourself a bit, but always orient them in a way that they are going towards results. Okay, so always say that I have been, and my background is. So this is like one way that with the success. So you need to talk about the successes, what you got, and my strength is. So you can expand these things. So what to talk? So this is a little snapshot. I thought that this could be the best way that you can organize. So this is actually now the real framework that I'm trying to give. Remaining all things are background. So what you talk when you say, tell me about yourself. It's all about work. It's not about your personal. It may be a little bit personal, but try not to be personal, because you have later interview for talking about personal stuff. So when somebody asks about work history, go to the earliest professional history that is relevant to the job. Talk about the company you worked for. Talk about the title you had. Talk about the experience that you had. Talk about the roles and responsibilities you had. And then in the end, you talk about the results. So remember the structure. It's all about professional stories. You tell a professional story. It has to be compelling, complete, original, clear, and engaging. Okay. And then you talk about which company you worked, a title, for example, you have a team lead position or a software engineer position or a manager position. Talk about the title and how many years you worked there and what were your responsibilities. So with your responsibilities, you have some kind of duties and what did you achieve. So you can start like this. I started in certain company as a position as a manager, and I worked there for past 2 years, and my responsibilities were organizing meetings, implementing structures, and all the things. So you know how to make this structure. And so one after one, you finish one professional history, jump to another snapshot. So there is no, there's no strict rule that you need to talk only about one work. You can talk multiple things. Okay, and so your little stories always should be result and achievement oriented. So the continuation for the previous slide, it's always like you say what are your responsibilities and what did you achieve. And it could be the major achievements, and it could be, I mean, sometimes you can look at your resume itself, what did you achieve. It could be saving time, saving processes, money, quantifiable results, whatever it is. So it's all about getting results and showing results. So if they hire you, how many millions you can save. They hire you, how much time your processes can save. So all these quantifiable results, what you achieved before, you need to tell them in this thing. Tell me about yourself question. And also put some things that what are you most proud of. So like really some things you'll be definitely proud of. Whoever it is on the planet, they will be proud of something. So always try to show that things. And tell what you know about this position you applied. And one thing that when I interviewed one person was that person actually didn't know what job he applied, and he was a data scientist. He applied in the healthcare. No idea about data. He was not data. He was insurance agent. I think he was insurance, and so that kind of really gave a very bad impression because that person didn't even know what he applied for. It also tells like when you are winding up the story, you can tell like I applied this position, I applied the sales manager position, for example, because I'm good at sales, and you also listed in your job description that having qualities like outgoing, being proactive, all these things are very important for sales manager, and I have this. So what you are trying to tell that person is that you already know what you are applying for. So the interviewer knows, okay, this person knows what he applied. Otherwise, it gives a negative thing because mainly what happens is you apply randomly like 1,000 jobs, and you suddenly get an interview. You don't even know which job you applied and what are the roles and responsibilities there. So at the time you may get interview, but in the interview you lose it. So always inform them that what position you applied. You can frame that within your first sentence of the this tell me about yourself and why you are a perfect fit for that. So you can start like this. I understand for this position you are looking for, you need person with so and so qualities, and I have it. And you can also start like this. I'm aware, and you can acknowledge them that they are looking for this position and you are perfect fit. So why you are a right fit. So you can tell them that you have certain experience, you have certain qualifications, certain qualities. So what happens is that you are already creating a connection with them, and you are winning them already. So you know complete story, and you are already putting yourself in their shoes. So you need to somehow tell a story that you brainwash them and tell them that you are the one and only that who fits to this position. And you could somehow wind up that I'm confident I can fulfill the job requirements. So these are the couple of things that you kind of in the sentence. So you tell your professional experience, you tell your achievements, you tell your background, you tell your roles and responsibilities, and then while winding it up, you need to tell that you are a perfect fit for this job because you have so and so qualities and what you can achieve. So it's like a rounding up the story with everything. Okay, so that's all. These are the little things. I mean, this may look very simple because normally these things will take only 3 to 5 minutes, but it's kind of this is very important, and I have seen many interviews where people don't even have this structure, and but at least we are getting trained in the structure. So I will stop here, and I would like to ask people, tell me about yourself, and I'll be happy to listen. And if there is any corrections, I'll be happy to tell you. Thanks. So let's practice.
Hi, this is Alpana. Sorry, before someone starts, another thing when I've been interviewing people is we start with myself, so and so. That's very Indian English. It's not really accepted in the Western world. So, and as you said, you don't have to use the name. So, myself, so and so is really not accepted. Thanks.
Thanks, Alpana. Okay.
Nancy here. Hi Jagdeesh. Hi everyone else.
Hey, Nancy.
I have a question regarding my habits. I've got this habit of whenever I talk, I'll be saying, we as a team accomplished this. You know, like if I'm talking about a project, I will say, yeah, so we were a team of 4 people and we had this project which was rolled out to 60,000 users and we were able to achieve it in 16 months. And that's how I've got a habit of saying this. What is your perspective? Is it a good one, or should I really change myself, focusing more on I had this role in a team of 4 people and I contributed, blah, blah.
Yeah, so now you already gave 2 hints for me. What I should ask next question. How many teams did you work?
Sorry?
How many teams did you work before? Like in how many teams did you work?
Let's say 6 to 7 teams by now.
And all the teams were successful?
Yes.
So you had a lead in all the teams. So because of you, your teams worked.
Yeah, you can say that. But what I'm saying is, I have got this habit of putting we in each sentence, you know. So,
No, I
what
know.
is your perspective of?
No, that's why I'm trying to get the answer from by asking more questions. Because
Okay.
telling team is a very good thing, but the thing is, you might be worked in many teams. You might have worked in many teams. Whether all the teams have achieved
Yeah.
or one team has achieved, because this team dynamics is completely dependent on the leader, on the people who are who are in the team. It could be different, interoperability, all these
Yeah.
things.
So some of my teams where I was a member of the team and there's someone else leading, whereas other teams where I am leading those projects and I have people who are not reporting to me, but they're also part of the project. So I
Mhm.
take care that the project is going well, but
Mhm.
they're not reporting to me. They are supporting the project, not me.
Okay. I mean,
So
there
that
is,
kind of setup.
for me, I don't see yes or no, but only thing is, you kind of give a lot of hints telling these things. I would actually focus more on yourself. You can talk about the team, but you can talk about your responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'll add my experience when I attended interview in 2019.
Mhm.
In some cases where I used we, some interviewers were very frank and immediately came up with the question that in the team, what was your role?
Yeah, exactly.
So even though we say some might not ask it so frankly, but I mean I also think it depends on the role that you are applying. Mine is a technical role where I don't lead team. So if I say as we as a team, definitely there will be a question that what is your role in it. So
Exactly.
if you are a team lead, then your answer will go in a different way. So where you have led the team and gave the result. So I think it's up to the situation or what the role. And from my and technical role perspective, they clearly ask what I did in the team as a role and how was the result. And I'll tell more in the upcoming minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I also just want to add one more point. This is Runa here. I've also experienced that sometimes they also ask back that how comfortable are you working on your own without a team? How comfortable can you individually handle a task and complete it end to end? So I think I agree with Jagdish that we start with what I can do as a person, and then of course the team capability and cooperating and working within team is something that can be spoken about later. But I faced that they have asked how comfortable I'm working on my own, because the role was, they were not sure whether they will place me in a project with a big team, or they might put me initially in something where I have to do alone with just some guidance from the management. So just a thought.
Sure. Thanks, Rona. Yeah, it's up to you,
Thanks.
Nancy. Yeah. Don't. I would focus more on myself, because the question was tell me about yourself. It's not about tell me about your team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just focus on personal stories first, and then jump to the teams. I mean, the team things actually come afterwards, because when there are questions about strength, weaknesses, or conflict management, problem resolving things, then you can talk about teams, how you could motivate your team and get more results done. So these things will be in a different section. Now we are focusing only on the first question of the interview, because the interview itself, there are many other questions, but this is very crucial element. So there it's all about you. Yeah. Cool. Anyone else who wants to share their experiences or who want to practice?
Yeah, coming to sharing my experience, I will tell mine. So I work in IT as a DevOps engineer. So when I take my interviews, as you see, when the interview is the first thing, I get a HR calls or a recruiter calls. They generally try to know what I'm working, and they try to match with the job description available before sharing with me. Like if I'm working in the Amazon cloud, what did I do, etc., and in the daily routine, what I'm doing. So when that is done, mainly the interview is technical interview. When it comes to technical interview, I generally did in the story way that we talked about in the session, like professional journey, how I started, in which role I started, how I navigated to the DevOps role, because DevOps came about in three years before, 4 years before. So how and to which clients I have dealt as a service-based company. So wide projects I dealt. So I tell it like a story of 8 years experience, how I navigated and where I am right now. And after that, mostly I get a question like, what are the challenges I faced in the current previous job, and what are the solutions given by me? And after that, as I said, what will be your daily routine job in the office for a day, considering? And at the end, they talk about the expectations they have for the new role, and how I can be contributing, or how I worked in the previous job. If there are any related experiences, they would like to ask me to share. And this is how it used to go when it's a main interview with vice president or technical manager or hiring manager. So I always had a nice experience. Only when at the end, when we try to share the expectations of the new role, we used to decide whether it's good for me to take it up or not. Other than that, I always had a pleasant experience going with the interview in this way. And some points were matched exactly in the presentation as you gave. So it was a good way. Yeah.
Thanks, Rita.
Thank you.
Amazing. Sure. Yeah, I mean, the structures are like self-made. I made this structure because that's what I see things, but there could be many structures. I mean, if an American is being interviewed, they talk so much, and they can sell stuff. And the Indians, some of the Indians, when I had interviews, it's really difficult. They don't really understand, and they talk about a lot of things. Starts
Right.
with the name, starts with the name, address, and a lot of crap, I would say. Like, doesn't really add anything.
And in some interviews, some interviews are scheduled during office time, and I could not get a time to look at what company is doing. In one interview, I could literally face the feedback that I didn't explore about the company.
Yeah.
That is there.
Excellent. You see, you gave such a good tip that they
And
always look for
and yeah,
familiarity.
true. And I also suggest candidates to reach out to the feedback, because I see a good culture here in Germany. but only when you follow up, they try to give a feedback what went wrong and what we might have to concentrate. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really got a good feedbacks after some
Okay.
interviews.
That's a very good tip. I also got a tip from this friend. You need to add feedback. You need to ask feedback, because for the novartis one I did not ask feedback, and my friend said you should ask how they felt because of the noise and everything. Yeah.
I also have this is Tejasvi. I also have experience about getting the feedback because in my previous company also I did an internal switch from department to department. It was not like a very formal interview, but it's always good, even though it's a within company, to get more feedback. That really helps how to improve in the further interviews. And whenever, I mean, here, at least in Germany, people are really happy when you ask for the feedback, and you will get a genuine feedback in that case. That's what I experienced.
Mm.
Yeah. And I have one question. As you and the other person also here mentioned that addressing ourselves with our name and personal detail wouldn't be not a good idea. I might be not so, I mean, I'm not a person who attended a lot of interviews till now in my career, maybe hardly like internal 4 to 5, external maybe, yeah, I would say 10 to 15 when I was a student or getting into the permanent position, but not anymore. But I didn't felt that anybody get offended or get a bad impression, and people upfront came and asked, "Tell me about your personal things." I mean, not in this session, but in the other this interview session, I learned at least you express. It's a very common thing to say, okay, I came from here, and just in few sentences saying, I don't know how much who agree with me or not your family, but yeah, I have sibling and yeah, kind of a status, I mean, about the family and little background where you come from. Is it, I would really like to get a comment on this thing, how much it's necessary to focus there or not. If it's an internal one, it's good to tell. If it's for the external, I mean, completely new company or interviewer, that would make sense to tell or not. I would like to have a small discussion on this, like what all the opinions you have.
In my view, there's nothing wrong or right in this thing. It's all up to you. Only thing is that you can tell your name. I also, whenever I have interview, I forget and I tell my name.
Yeah,
But why I tell my name is that I make a story. So you can call me Jagadeesh, not a Jagadeesh like German, or Hagadish
yeah,
like Spanish.
yeah,
So
yeah. Okay.
that's like a story I make. Then my friends call me Jaga, Jagu. So it's like I end up there. So
Okay. Okay.
I
This is what I wanted to know. If we directly don't say our name, is that okay to make such a stories, or people call me like this, or you can call me or pronounce me like this, like not directly saying that myself Tejas is so much like that kind of thing. Okay. Mhm.
okay, I mean, you're talking to a human, right? And then the human needs to call you in certain way. Normally,
Yeah,
many
of course.
employers, they call your name and then they ask like, oh, is it the right way to call? Is it the right way to
Yeah,
pronounce? So
yeah,
they already might have familiarized with your name, and
yeah,
afterwards it's jumping to the topics. I mean,
yeah,
there
yeah.
is no right or wrong. Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Can I come in here, Jagdish?
yeah, Anand, go ahead.
Yeah, a small clarification actually. What Dr. Alpana said was, don't say myself. See, myself is like a literal translation from whatever
Yes,
mother tongue you are from. So
yes,
don't
yes.
say myself. So instead
Yeah,
say I am so and so, or this is so and so. And
yeah,
also
yeah.
decide on what type of English you want to follow. See, this is the major problem that I see with people. Though I have not attended any of the so-called conventional interviews or anything, but we have these kind of sessions in German in RKM. So how you introduce yourself? The first thing, ich heiße so and so. Mein Name is not the right one. Ich heiße. So it is like my name is. My name is. So when you are doing it, you need to do it in a conventional sense. There are accents and there are so many things. So first thing you need to concentrate in is what type of English you want to concentrate. Are you interested in British English or American English? First, decide on that, and don't make a hodgepodge of both. That is the mistake that a lot of people do. Don't make a hodgepodge of everything. Either you use British English, which has a separate grammar, or you use American English, which has separate grammar. That's why they call one language two grammars. So that grammar is completely different. This grammar is completely different. And first decide what type of English you want to follow. Then you can modulate accordingly and strictly follow that English only, grammar of that particular English only. That will help, because in RKMAT our professors used to say, the moment you use American English, you are dead. It is the most horrible. This is the most horrible thing you can, because when we had to write letters and all, so they used to see that shortcuts and all those things, and they used to blast us like anything. Because this is not the way. One day our sir scolded like anything. No, why are you using American English? You should use British English, and that is a traditional way. And since India has been ruled by British, so British English sounds good for us rather than faking it in American English.
Let's not jump into the English structures, because we
No, it's not the structure. I just said how you introduce yourself. Within that, you need to follow. See, Americans introduce in a different way. Britishers follow a different way. So Europeans, they are more used to British. So it depends. So I just want to stop it here.
No, I actually have an opposite view on that. Because American accent has more winning. I mean, British accent, of course. But it's up to you. We have English Winglish, so it's a third English we have. So, what do you know?
One thing here, I've been more on the side of the interviewer rather than being interviewed. So from that perspective, you also two things to keep in mind. One is, what kind of interview is it? Is it more informal or is it formal? Because based on that, as Jagadeesh has said, then your tone or how you talk about yourself will matter. The other thing is also, as Anand said, the English that you use, yes, but I forgot the second. Sorry, I blame it on age, but yeah, I just wanted to say formal versus informal. So you need to just go with, the second point was, when you're introducing yourself, the expectation is that the person who's interviewing you has invested some time in at least going through your CV. Okay, and they are expected to know your name and some background about you. If you go in an interview and if that person does not know your name at all, I would not even bother to go with that person, if you ask me, because that's not professional, and I would not like to work with a person who's not professional or is not investing time in you.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I have a question, Anurag here. In Germany, I've been given some interviews, like very recent ones as well. So I have like two kinds of interviews. First one was, there was a technical round, and the second round would be with the CEO or the CIO. I have not had that yet because of the lockdown, because I have to be on a face-to-face basis. And the other one was with the consultancy. So they had one internal, and then the other one is with the client of the consultancy. So in these different kind of interviews, like how should we like change the tell me something about yourself? Because the other person in my first interview was a technical guy in my team, or will be in my team, or in that sense. And the next round would be like, I'll be talking to the CEO of the company. So there should be some difference in that sense, or I should just go ahead with the normal experience way, and that I was a bit confused in that, because as you said, like we should think who is in front of us and change the things accordingly. But in Germany, I'm not really sure, because in Italy, I gave an interview. I had an interview with the CEO and CFO, and they were really casual. They were like, probably they were really cool as that in the normal way. But in Germany, I have not done that with like a CIO or a CEO yet. So I was a bit concerned in that, like, how should we proceed with this? Tell me something about yourself.
Does somebody wants to go with the answer?
Hi, Anurag, Sumana this side. I'd like to take the opportunity to answer your question. The first part is when your replication is going through some consultancy, the recruiter or the consultant person is already get in touch with you and try to dig more information from you, from your background, and then they create a profile of yours and present that it to client. So they will obviously tell your good parts and good, like, your strong skills, so that they can get the client and you can go through the client interview first. When you are facing the client interview, for example the client HR interview, then it is more on your, like, your personalities, how, like, for example, if you're basically from another country, how you land up here in Germany or Italy or some other country, and what is your motivation and things like that. And then after telling this kind of points, you can just tell, okay, I am so and so experienced, and I have done these technologies, I'm passionate about blah blah, and things like that, like around 2 to 3 minutes. And then wait what the HR is really interested to. If they are interested into a strength weakness, then you go on your strength weakness. Other than that, if they are asking about your technical point of view, then you go on your technicalities. So, like, what you have done, like going through the project details or what challenges you have faced, etc, etc. The second question from your side, if you are not going through consultancy or directly applying for a job, in that case it can be, I would say, it can be more agile. So you can tell more on your technical side, you can tell more, you can balance with your technical and behavioral part. So it is up to you. And maybe you have to figure it out on your own by giving some interview or having some interview experiences. And I can tell from my point of view, like, it is like okay to give you some background, it is okay to give some background, and then you go to your technicalities. Because at the end of the day, you, if you're applying for a software engineer position or any technical position, the interviewer will be interested into your skill set, technical skill set.
Okay. Yeah. In the end, they will need to know my technical skills.
I mean,
Yeah.
are you? Am I able to? Am I understandable? Or
Yes,
do you have any questions regarding that?
yes. But the third part was like being with a like CEO or CIO, that kind of a role thing. I was just because concerned about that because they.
Right. I'll add a point to that because I had 2 to 3 times with the CEO and CTO. Uh, as you said, you gave an interview in Italy. Even when I had it in Germany, it is in a similar way. They're really cool. They want to know your journey, or sometimes they try to know your principles or beliefs or how your thought process. This is only thing, but that is not very deep. They're casual only. Just this is one difference I saw from India and Germany. In Germany, it is like a conversation that you have, even though you have a story structure that you tell, but they are really cool and there looks like a conversation whether you will fit into the role or not. So this is in my experience. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Leela, to addition to the Leela's point of view, Leela Krishna Chava, that most of the time the CEOs are more on like cultural fit, whether you are actually can able to work with the existing work environment, which I have felt in my present organization. And I had a head of the department or head of the engineering department I had an interview with. So he mentioned, okay, if you are given so and so task, will it be able to manage to do it, and blah blah. So cultural fit, really the CEO or the CTOs, they care about. And under them, they have already taken the technical interview passed their feedback to the CEO or CTOs mostly. In Germany, I have seen that.
Okay, thank you. Sumana.
Okay. I'd like to say something about on feedback culture. I really appreciate and like the feedback culture in Germany, which I have not seen in India, and this is not really common there. For whatever application I have made, I have got at least some answer by email, whether it is accepted or rejected. That is one part. This is really nice. The second part is if I am not selected or I failed some technical interview, for example, last year I have given one interview with Google, and I met through the HR round and the first telephonic interview, first technical telephonic interview, and then there was a Google Doc interview. For example, they have given me one question. I have to code in front of one Google engineer, and then after the time, I got a feedback. Okay, I didn't make through, but I have received a detailed feedback where I need to improve my coding skills. For example, what algorithm I could have used, what data structure could have made my life easier, and what are the clean code techniques and things like that. So I'm really happy I could receive that. But they have not given me via email. They called and then they told. So it is different from company to company how they give feedback, but they give. This is really nice in Germany, I would say.
Thanks, Sumana. It really depends on the company to company, because if they have proper HRs and proper processes, they give feedback. But if it is run by some messy person who doesn't do all these things, it's not there. But Germany is quite good in these things. They maintain this relation.
Yeah.
Agree with you.
So this is Runa here. I just want to share one of my experience here in Germany. So I was interviewed for a company in Oberhaching near Munich, and I went through 4 rounds. I went to the final face-to-face round. I went to their office, and their mother company was in UK, and the branch was here in Germany. So their senior management for the final round joined via video conferencing from UK, and they, after I came back after a week, they confirmed that they would like to proceed and they would like to offer me the contract, and what do I think about it. And then I said okay, and they asked me for my address and everything. And at that time my husband was not here, so he was traveling, he was on a business trip, so I wanted him to be back and once again discuss, because I was not too sure to relocate to Oberhaching. So I just took a day or two time to reply back to them. And the second day I got a call from them that they cannot proceed with the application because someone was interviewing in the mother company in the UK as well, and they also hired a person and they would like to go with them. So basically what I am trying to say here is that my learning, at least, and you guys can correct me based on experience, but what I feel is if you are going with such a level and if you want to proceed, then do not take too much of time in sharing the details once you are finalized, because sometimes they also have other candidates in hand where they are also looking at, and someone else might get finalized in the time that you are taking on your personal front to think about to go or to not go, or whatever other reasons might be. So sometimes the contract gets withdrawn, because until the contract is not sent, both of the employee and the employer, I mean the interviewer and the interview, has the right to step back. So it was my very first experience where the company actually withdrew the contract, not the contract, let's say they haven't issued it, but they withdraw because they said they have other candidate finalized already and the contract is issued. So I never thought that this kind of thing can also happen, that company says no after saying yes within just 2 days. But this was one of the experience, and I suggest people to be sure and take a decision when you are at this point, when you are offered a contract and you just have to share final details. Be very quick in deciding what you want, because sometimes this kind of situation can happen, because they are interviewing 15 other people along with you, right?
Yeah.
So
I agree with Runa. I completely agree with you. And sometimes the contract sharing things is not that formal PDF. Normal, like formal PDF thing, but it could be also an email stating all the things like permanent position, what is your salary, for example, how many days you get off. But if they are asking your confirmation via email, okay, are you okay with this proposal or not? Because this happened with me as well. So for my present organization, when I got interviewed face to face, they sent me just after my interview in 2 hours that, okay, we are good to go, are you accepting our proposal or not? So we have sent you an email. If you say okay, we will write the contract and send it and deliver it by post to your home. And then the thing is similar thing, if I tell okay, I need time, they can choose another person and then go ahead with them, for example. But the thing like I wanted to switch, I said yes. So this is another example from my side as well. So please don't waste time. If you have anything, so just go
Yeah.
ahead.
Because they might like someone, more than you, like in the sense they might find someone more skillful, but because the other person is not replying and they want to fit to this position, they might offer you, but because of the time taken and the other person coming back, your offer might be taken. Because if they have not posted the contract, they have the full rights to do this. But once the contract is sent to you and you have it in your hand, at least the companies, what I understand is they won't take it back, but you still have time until you sign the contract. But once you have signed it, then you have legal terms behind taking it back, withdrawal. There are several rules here in Germany. It's not so easy to withdraw once you have signed the contract.
Super.
So,
yeah. Valid question. Very valid. There'll be a lot of pressures actually. There'll be a lot of people who will be asking. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, Jagadeesh. Also, some companies tell if you have signed the contract, if you want to cancel the contract, you have to join, and there will be a probation period. For example, 2 weeks. Sorry, not probation. It is a notice period. So
Yeah.
2 weeks at least you have to be in the company, and then you can terminate the job. This is some I have seen similar. I mean cases like I have signed the contract and I got a better opportunity. I couldn't opt due to this reason.
Right. So withdrawal in Germany is not so easy. Like in India, you can always say, yes, I want to join. And one day before you get a better thing in your company and you say, sorry, I'm not joining. But here you have signed the contract. You are legally obliged now to follow certain withdrawal rules. Otherwise, you are in trouble for your rest of your career.
Yeah, exactly.
But
There are
not
a lot
all
of
the
things
companies
that
are
when you
following
hire.
this. So you have to get clarification that okay, what if I get a better opportunity and I get this thing. So then the employer the HR or anyone can tell okay, we do not have any restrictions. You can take back any time. Or some says you cannot because blah blah things.
Excellent. Thanks, Rona. Thanks, Sumana.
Hello all, I'm Lavanya, and can I?
Yeah, go ahead, Lavanya.
Okay, I have a small doubt. As I got selected in my first interview, I don't have any other experience. So regarding weaknesses, I have a small doubt. So can I say that I don't focus much on my weakness, as I always wants to build my strength and I wants to focus on my strength. So can I say such things?
Does someone wants to answer or shall I answer?
Please answer.
Yeah, so Lavanya, there is no person without weaknesses. There's like, show me one person who doesn't have weakness. Even the person who is interviewing will have weakness. They all will be suffering. I mean, if they're so good in their life, they don't even need to interview. They can just delegate it to somebody else. So it's not about you don't have weaknesses. It's about telling something that is relevant and how you can actually compensate with your strengths.
Yeah, actually, I am not saying that I don't have any weakness. I am saying that I don't focus much on my weakness.
But
If
you
they
have to
ask,
say something about it. Like what exactly the weakness you feel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If they ask, you can tell. But if they don't ask, you don't need to.
Okay.
Yeah. It really depends on the interviewer. Sometimes they don't ask. Sometimes they just look at how cheap few people come and how things how their expertise is and how they can train you. And some people doesn't care, but some people care. It's all about the interview. You could build a story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
Any others? Pratima, Pratik, Soham,
Hi,
Shashank. Hi.
hi, Jagdish, everyone. This is Mohit. So I have two questions. The first question would be, I've applied to both both type of fields, that is the academic field, the research organizations, and also the industrial thing. So I just want to ask, uh, is there a single way that do we follow in giving the answers to the questions? Because I feel that generally the research interviews are being taken by professors who are very much into detailed stuff. So as we don't want, on the contrary, when we come to the industrial interview types, they don't. I mean, as the interview goes further, they emphasis on the detailed stuff. But on the other hand, in the academic thing, they want to know everything in detail. So how would the answer differ? I just want to know this.
Is there any academics in this group? Am I the only one? Okay. So Mohit, very good question actually. So for me, okay, whenever you call academics, academy is less structured. Academia is very less structured, and you will be directly dealing with professor or somebody in the lab. They love to hear a lot of stories. So it's less of a structure, and you can frame whatever structures you have, and your accomplishments will talk to itself by itself. Okay. And in the job interviews, they're all of structure. They're all about hierarchy, HR interviewing. Then again, you go and talk to another person. It's really a structure, and they interview hundreds of people every day, or now and then. Then it's all about structure. So these are the two differences that I see in academia, because when I was in the lab, we used to interview PhD students and postdoc students. And at that time, we used to meticulously look at the CVs and whether they are fit or not. But here, when in my company, the HR screens the application, HR interviews, then it comes to us.
Okay.
So the hierarchy, look at the hierarchy. So that's a difference I know, and I do not know much about other details.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Sure, Mohit. Any others? If there are not many, then let's take a leave.
Jagdish?
Yeah, Lavanya, go ahead.
Yeah, one more small question, I think. So, in the introduction, means at the starting point, can I say, as the name says, I'm happy and graceful person, directly like that?
Yes, sure. Why not?
Okay, like, I mean, what you meant, okay, name and everything is already there in your resume, or so can I directly start as the name says, I'm happy and blah blah blah? So can I start like that?
I mean, there's no rule that you don't need to start, as
I
long
mean,
as you.
no, actually, can it make some sense, or it's not good? That's what I mean. I just need you guys' opinion about it.
No, what follows afterwards is important. So
Okay.
you just tell that and leave it, and then go to the actual topic. But if you focus more on my name means happiness, and my father chose it from the Sanskrit scripts, and others calls me this one, and then what my friends call me this one. But so the thing is that it's all up to you, the little thing, but in the end, the results and the real things.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Cool, guys. Then thanks for joining, and bye bye, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Jagdish. Have a nice evening. Bye.
Bye bye.